Do.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ARW stream. My name is Billy. Um, for those of you who watch Mr. Pete's This and That number 69, you'll get the joke.
Having some trouble.
Hold on there. Let me mute you there. All right. So today we're going to be talking about scrap materials, how and where to source it, preparing it for use, creative uses, way more. So we're going to switch over here to the panel and start chatting about this stuff. There we go. All right, who wants to go first?
Hello, guys. I'm Tucker. You can find me at Tuck's Garage on Instagram. Thanks for the re-invite here.
There you go. All right, what you got, Tuck? What do you like to use for scrap?
What do I use for scrap? I use a little bit of everything. I am fortunate enough that my work will give me access to a little bit of their scrap bin, so I'll use that most often. Scrap dies, pieces of materials, pieces of machinery we're actually scrapping out. I'll grab a piece or two from that. After that, I'll go to scrapyard. Scrapyard pieces of metal aren't the best. After that, anything I'll take apart. I mean, brake rotors for metal if you're doing casting. What else? I don't know. It's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's good. All right. I personally don't use a lot of scrap material. I tend to go buy mine, and the pain point for me is taking the time to prep the material. I don't want to spend the time to prep the material to be able to use it. So getting that nice clean stuff to use is the thing for me. I know that you guys tend to do stuff, you just find something and use it. So someone speak to that for me.
Yeah, I think for me, the needle scaler is the go-to because I get some really crusty stuff. Most of mine I'm kind of pulling out of the river or pulling out of the woods. And the needle scaler is the first one. Knock most of it off with that. And then I'm still trying to dial in the best way to do, get it from that stage to something that's really clean.
You use sandblasting or wire wheeling or anything like that?
I'll do a wire wheel, and I need to make some room and get a blast cabinet. I think that's really the way to go with it, is just blast it.
Okay. What do y'all make with this scrap material?
That is a tough question. I find I'm making things for other people, not just for myself. If somebody comes along, hey, I got this idea, I want to try and make it, let me go check my scrap bin and see what I've got. That's what I'm making with all this stuff. What about you guys?
Usually I'm building machinery or whatever idea that I have at the time. And the comment about the brake rotors, I have never had good luck with melting brake rotors. It is really crap cast iron. If you want really good cast iron, I would try, or to melt, I would look for ductile iron like exhaust manifolds or even the intake manifolds and stuff.
That's a good point.
The ductile iron, they have to have a lot more precise control of the alloying, and to actually do that, otherwise any sulfur impurities or anything else will cause the ductile iron to convert back to gray iron.
Right.
Then you're ended up with just gray iron that's would just cracking under the stress.
I know that Clark Easterling uses brake rotors for his casting process. He's got a big old machine up there that breaks them and crushes them up and drops them into his furnace and uses that for casting.
Yeah, about every time I've tried melting brake rotors, it's bit me. I've actually had it freeze in the crucible, and I ended up with crucible steel. I could actually cut a chunk out, and I was actually able to forge it into a blade. So it is definitely not cast iron.
He must be sourcing his from somewhere else then, because that's what he uses.
Yeah.
I
You
did this
gotta-
recycling. I actually picked up a couple semi truck brake drums and used one of those to make a nice pedestal for a tool grinder.
Mhm.
That thing weighed about 100 pounds. I kind of threw my back out.
Yeah, I've got 8 of those sitting under my camper right now to break down. They're actually a type of ductile iron.
Yeah.
I think they're 65-35-10 grade ductile iron.
DJ is commenting on the note the hard spots on the Rucker straight edges. Yeah, he had some issues with that with that, but I think that was mostly because they're on the edges and that's where it's cooling off faster. I think that was Clark's explanation for that. I'll be honest, I don't know jack about casting.
Well, the brake rotors, they do a lot of the time. They'll just melt down scrap steel and just raise the carbon content up till you get the cast iron. But the problem is you still have all the alloying elements in it, which causes it to create different or various carbides within the metal.
Right.
And that translates into a lot of chilled spots and other junk in the casting that you can't get out.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what else kind of scrap metal are we talking about? Where do y'all find it? Somebody said they went out and found it behind their houses and in the on their property and old farm implements and stuff like that.
I think. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of my sources are just through word of mouth. I mean, once guys figure out that you're looking to do castings and stuff, it just kind of shows up. Like you show some of your castings on Facebook or whatever, and say, "Hey, I'm getting short of aluminum or whatever." And I mean, you got to be really choosy when the stuff starts showing up. But that's been a really successful source for me.
Okay.
So I mean, a good example would be a mechanic friend down the road. He actually brought over like an orange crate full of aluminum that I can kind of break down and smelt up if I need it.
Okay, that's interesting. We do have a supermarket, metal supermarket nearby that I go rummaging through their offcuts with. Of course, I'm paying for that. Sometimes though, they'll donate stuff to us as well for welding and that kind of stuff. But we're not really making projects. That's just for doing classes to teach people how to do stuff. So it's not like we're making stuff with it.
Yeah, I think the offcuts are always a good deal. That I just did advice for my shaper, and that was out of went to the steel supplier, picked through the offcuts, and there's a 12-inch by 12-inch by 1.5-inch thick slab of steel there, and I used half of it for that project, so it was like $35.
I thought you fished it out of this river too.
No, but yeah, that wasn't, but the piece for the screw and the base of it, that was all stuff out of the river. And so I live in New England, and it's sort of the the cradle of the Industrial Revolution in the U.S. And there's a section of I'm also a whitewater kayaker, so I'm getting into places that a lot of people don't. And there's a section of river near me here that it's about 1.5 miles, 2 kilometers, I guess, for the metric folks. And there were 7 paper mill dams on that section in that little bit. Turn of the century sort of thing. And when the mills shut down, they pretty much just knocked them over and left them. And then on top of that, there was an iron foundry nearby there. And when that burned down in the 60s, they basically just knocked that over onto pushed it into what was left of the mill foundations. And we're cleaning all of this up and trying to turn it into a park. So we're going in and hauling this stuff out. We hauled basically a 40 cubic yard dumpster worth of bent wire and other scrap metal out, and I picked through that and found some good stuff. So yeah, it's literally just old industrial debris that I'm pulling out of the river.
Yeah. Somebody just flashed up hydraulic cylinders, printers, and old struts make good materials too.
Printers, not too much. It's good source of smooth rod that's chrome plated.
Right.
But usually a lot of that's just
very thin
mild
and
steel.
very nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
find
usually just
projects
mild
for that
steel.
stuff. I'm not
And
flirting with it.
the Daniel said about the or no, it was about the truck axles. Usually you have to watch with those. Some of them are 1060, some are 4140. So you gotta watch on those. But they do make good hammers, good hammer heads.
I think you could probably do a spark test to tell the difference between those two, couldn't you? Because I think
Yeah,
4140 would have nickel and
it sparks about the same from what I've seen, but once you get it under the hammer, the 4140 has a lot more resistance when hammering on it.
yeah,
Can you not-
it's got a
can
lot
you
more
not,
nickel and chromium.
Could you not like cut a little chunk of it off and heat it up and then harden it and see what it comes out to be?
That's kind of, I won't really tell them too much. It's more feel when you're hitting it, because alloy steels usually have a bit more resistance trying to heat it or trying to work it.
Everett, did you get your microphone working, bud? Nope.
No. Still not.
Everett's got some technical difficulties.
But we can see you. I think that's a good start.
Yeah.
Wait,
The
who
problem
knows sign language?
we have over here talking about scrap metal is that there is no. Over here is lots of timber working in the woods and some farming, but there's no industry. No heavy industry. There's workshops, of course, and it's also a natural park over here. So a pile of scrap is not allowed to have. Now, lucky I am, sometimes I can pick up some things at work. I ask my boss if I can have this thing, and normally he say yes, no problem, and then I bring it home. And then with scrap metal, you can make gears, for example. The problem with these things, it's not a problem, it's more the fun effect. If you pick up a piece of scrap, I don't know for other people, for me, I see what is inside. A bit like a sculptor can see in a piece of rock, he can see the statue that's inside. All he has to do is cut it free. For example, this is an old jowl from my old milling vise. It was completely chewed up. You can even see the traces here. And I welded a piece of made in Germany clamp on it. And now I have a variable parallel that doesn't work as a parallel. So if you have a piece that's out of square, it will always push on. I don't know if you can see a bit the idea on camera.
Instead of using a wire or a ball bearing.
Yeah,
or
a wire
like
or a ball or whatever.
I like that.
I can now use this thing. And it works really fine. But I'm surprised that it works so good. This is a tool holder for my shaper. 100% scrap metal. It's an old bolt. It's what's not even a bolt, because this side I welded a nut on. For example, this little vise combined thing is 100% scrap metal. All things I found in the docklands in Antwerp. Of course, I ask, because I don't want to lose my job for a piece of scrap of 1 liter of diesel. Yeah, of course.
So true.
Yeah.
And then if you have a little bit imagination, you can make this out of scrap metal. This is 100% leftovers and scrap.
Are
Wow.
you kidding me?
No,
Dadgum.
absolutely not.
That's awesome.
The
How long does that-
only new things that in here is the little balls. This hand wheel used to be a bolt. You can see it in the videos. I have an all built video series on this. The cutting tool that's in here is a broken drill bit. So what do you want to do with a broken drill bit? Nothing, but use it as scrap metal. The gear comes out of a piece of 20 millimeter steel plate, a little piece I had. Now, not far away from here, there's like Billy says, a supplier of metals, so I can buy brand new metal, which is of course very expensive.
Oh
And
yeah.
sometimes I need new metal to make some things. And then I always ask for leftovers in little pieces. But over here, you pay the full price of it. So the little gifts, this one you can take for free is non-existent over here. So I hope this explains a little bit the idea behind.
Yeah.
Of course, I made way more things out of scrap metal. I used a counterweight that's on the hook of a crane, yeah, a big chunk of steel with a hole through. I used that, a piece of it, to repair my anvil. I made the horn for my anvil. It's also in an older video. I made a smaller table anvil that I use inside, scrap metal. I made a vise for my shaper a long time ago. 100% scrap metal. It's very rare that I use new things, new metal to make whatever. Of course, if you need bigger pieces, for example, give me an example. I don't know. For example, yeah. Of course, you need new. If you don't have the matching piece of scrap. Not later than today, I made a brand new stand for a vise, an old vise. You will see it in upcoming video. 100% scrap.
Cool. I know that some of you guys have like using railroad track material, and your mic's working now, Everett, so you're good.
I had to restart it.
Yep.
I knew we could do it.
Yeah, guys
You
ever seen
talking-
that? It's like the IT crowd. Have you tried turning it off and turning it on back on again?
Yep.
Is it on fire yet?
You hit it with a hammer.
If you can't fix it with duct tape, it means you didn't use enough.
Zip
Okay.
ties.
So so railroad track. Anybody had any fun playing with that?
No.
Yeah. It's okay. It's about 1080 with added manganese for extra toughness, but you talk about track or spikes.
Track.
Yeah,
I think
track is
I think a bit of experience that I've had. I haven't worked with railroad track much, but I did do a bit of research in the thermal welding, and I think there's different layers of metal in it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think the top is a different quality of metal than it is on the bottom.
I think you are right in that. I remember hearing that somewhere.
Now,
It also
I've
worked
heard
on
it
indeed,
also,
I used a very little piece, this length, to make my little indoor anvil. And indeed, the top side is way harder than the bottom.
Well, that's
And
you'll have
it's
to
a
remember.
disaster to machine.
You have to remember it work hardens too, as those trains go over top of that stuff.
yeah. They also I've heard the same thing about it's different alloys, but it's really not. It's the same. what they do, they flame harden the top, which kind of adds a little more toughness on top, but it still makes the neck and the base soft.
Yeah.
Once you heat it up and start working it, it's all the same, really.
Yeah.
And it does. The track, I found it works okay for cutting tools, for forging out onto the, as like a lathe tool. It works okay, but I prefer an alloy steel over the railroad track because it holds an edge better when going through aluminum or brass or something. It actually does wear down because it can't handle the thermal. It has a bit of a thermal breakdown compared to an alloy steel like 5160.
But if you have a piece of railroad track, you can make a very nice little anvil with it. It's a very hard steel, and you can work it with the angle grinder. It works fine, but with a high-speed steel cutters, it works, but you have to regrind your tool several times. But it makes nice anvils and all this other or hammer, for example, can make a perfect hammer out of a railroad track, which is a bit pointless because buying a brand new hammer is way easier and way cheaper than make one. But where is the fun?
Yeah, we don't talk about that, do we?
Yeah.
I don't think the railroad track is very good for hammer handles or hammer heads.
No.
The added manganese actually helps a lot with work hardening, and you end up just hardening the crap out of the thing as you're using it, and it'll chip real bad on you.
Yeah.
That's why you want to stick with just a standard carbon steel for hammer heads and stuff.
Yeah. What about using stuff? I know some of you guys like forging, but steel cables and such.
Ooh, I haven't done that one. I would love to hear other people's opinions.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done any steel cables either.
Most
I know
of them-
they're about.
I think it's very difficult to work because steel cables is of course all different wires with lots of crap in between them because it's old and rusty. Then you have to heat it up and forge welding it together before you have one bar. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a press or a power hammer to do
Yeah,
that.
I think it's a little bit.
No, you could do it by hand.
You could, I couldn't.
It works, but I think it's very difficult, and you're gonna use tons of borax to make it weld. And if you heat a little bit too much, half of it will melt away, and I think it's a disaster.
Not really. A little trick for cable: if you take some rubbing alcohol and dissolve a crap ton of borax into it and just soak your cable in it overnight after getting all the oils and stuff out, do that, and then once you start forging it, that alcohol will burn off, and you can actually, the alcohol helps get all the borax into all the joints or all the cavities, and it actually creates that. John Schweitzer over at Black Bear Forge actually just did a video of making a hatchet or a little axe out of the cable. It's around about 1080, 1090 steel. So,
Everett, what kind of materials and stuff do you do with scrap? I know that you used to get a lot of stuff from your old shops and do some cool, neat stuff with it.
Oh, I still get stuff from the shops because, some of the stuff I actually still do favors and stuff for my buddies back at the shop. So I still get to dig through their scrap bins all I want. It's basically, scrap bins. I will go to metal supermarkets if I have to, but it's prohibitively expensive here. everything's more expensive in Canada too, right? So he's got to take that into account. No, I'm not kidding. You'd start.
I know,
comparing-
man. I'm from BC too.
Yeah, oh, I know you do, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
you start comparing even exchange. It can account for exchange. Things are more expensive here. It's just the way it is. We're still cheaper than some other places, so I'm not complaining. Like it's life. But I will admit I go there sometimes if I need something special. There's a local supplier here in town, a couple local welding and fabrication shops. I like to go in there because you can sometimes horse trade with them. Otherwise, auctions have been actually kind of a nice one too, as companies go down or clean up their yards or whatever, and you can sometimes get some pretty good deals. Like I got a whole box full of blocks like this. It's basically about 4.5, 5-ish, on a side. And then I got some that were a little bit bigger than this too, in like a small shipping crate, which is almost like a skid crate. And I got the whole lot for like $25.
Wow.
So,
That's a gift.
stuff like that.
Any idea what that was?
It's just what's about half-inch plate welded into brackets. I got a dozen of these things. A local trade school is cleaning up and moving. They're building a new facility. So one of the trade schools is cleaning up. It's a fixture so you can mount stuff to a table to work on it. And I got a dozen of these for $18.
Sick.
So that's, like I say, that's where I've been getting my stuff. And you're talking earlier about, what do you make of this stuff? Well, I have a problem that I have a pile of different crazy ideas and projects and stuff floating through my head. It just depends on what scrap comes in at what time to be able to sort of make it coalesce.
Yeah.
And
The scrap decides. Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. It's just you basically using what comes to you and adjusting your design to fit. So I haven't really sat down with Fusion to make this massive 3D model of the thing I want to build. It's once I get my stuff, hey, I can cut it out of that. Then I might make up the plan. But until that point, it's just collecting. Because we're all in a budget.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun of it is
Yeah.
find a random chunk of metal and try to figure out, okay, what does this want to be next?
What's
totally.
hidden inside? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. What do you
Sharpie's
got
got
there,
something
Sharpie?
here. Let's look at it. What is that?
It's like, who needs CAD? Ran a piece of cardboard and a pencil.
Well, we
I
call
need
that
CAD.
That's,
I'm a millennial.
cardboard
I
aided
need
design.
CAD.
Cardboard assisted design.
Yep.
I have a blackboard to do this.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I got stuff from Chris McDonald over at Just One Guy, and we've done a couple things back and forth, and he keeps sending me phone shots of the backside of a pizza box he scrabbles on with a jiffy marker.
Look, if you read the dimensions, it's all that really matters.
Yeah.
As big as I am into computers and everything, I prefer to draw stuff out by hand. I have difficulties in CAD, but I still like to draw it out on paper and throw some dimensions and do it old school.
If I'm doing something that's getting complicated, I'll do, because you start with a piece of scrap. It's like, what size is this going to be when it cleans up? Clean it up, figure out what size it is, go into CAD, draw it up, go back to the metal, figure out what you can, what the next step is, and I'll kind of iterate that way and just kind of make very rough sketches. But a lot of it is just like, how much is this going to clean up? And then for me, a lot of the time, I want it to look like it was made out of scrap too. So I want to leave some of it. And I want to know, like, what do you guys think about, like, how do you decide how much you're going to clean a piece up?
That's the nice thing about the forging stuff. If it doesn't fit, grab out the hammer and a little bit of fire and you can make it.
Force it to be what you
Make
want.
it to size.
I took a 2-inch piece of steel and forged or upset it to about 2.5 inch because I needed the flange on it for the vertical milling head spindle.
Wow.
Just heat the thing up, slam it down on some steel, and it mushrooms the end out.
Yeah.
And then just
So I got
forge
a
it back
question
in.
for you guys. How do you store all of the scrap or material that you have? And how much do you think you have?
Well,
I can show you right now.
Yeah.
All right. Here,
That would
we're
take a
gonna
while.
Take you on a short little walk. So I buy some of my stuff from scrap yards. So maybe 2 years ago, like this is all up here. This is all from a scrap yard. This is plate. At some point, this is going to knock my walls over in my shop. But I think the hardest part is knowing when to say no, right? So, like, this is, what is this, 2-inch QT 400 or 100? Bunch more on the floor here.
Nice.
Hiding in there. I mean, it gets better too. I have a problem. So, I mean, a bunch more of my round stock up here. I'm pretty sure this stuff here is 1045 just because it's got the ground finish on it or better. And then, like, sometimes I can tell too because it's got this, like, this cardboard stuff on it. But really, storing it is really the problem. Like, I don't know if you guys watched that video where I made the greenhouse, a little bit off topic, but out behind my shop, I had a stainless steel table that weeds were growing around it, and behind my shop, we can't even take it behind my shop because there's way too much garbage back there. But I mean, really, anywhere you can store it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, who needs wood when you got that much steel holding your walls up?
I cannot even dream of this quantity of.
Good.
No,
Well, I have a
I don't have much. I have a very small pile outside, and I have a even smaller pile below my workbench, and that's it. I do with. That's all.
I got a pile in the backyard that just kind of got thrown there because I didn't have space for it at the time as I was renovating the garage. And now that it's done, I can move it in. But in my garage, I actually have 2 of those industrial job site boxes, like the big Greenlee style boxes. Like basically the one's 4 foot long, well, a little over 4 foot, 3 foot deep, and about 30 inches high. It's full of my square stuff. It's probably about 4,000 pounds in that one. And then the other one is the slightly about shorter one. It's got about 2,500 pounds of my round stuff. So
you got to have it to build it, right?
Well, that's just it. And I mean, this has also been accumulated over a number of years of being an obsessive packer who can't say no. So it's yeah. And I got the job boxes at an auction for super like cheap enough. Even I would buy them because I watch for garage sale prices at auctions. So, you know, once you have it, then you have something to work with, and you can always cut a bigger piece out of a smaller piece, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I know you can always use a welder and make a small piece into a big piece with another small piece, but yeah, you just do what you do.
And I've actually started having to, once I've decided to build a project, then I start accumulating some of the stuff as well.
Mhm.
I don't want to tip my hand too much, but I just got my hands on a snowblower the other day. Not too off topic, but it's missing the front on it. And I'm just starting to accumulate little gearboxes and all sorts of stuff that I'm going to make something out of that. So stay tuned in another month or two. I'll have a cool video for that.
We will. Yeah.
Flashing comments up here, guys, about people.
Yeah.
I'm very much enjoying what they're saying. They have some good suggestions.
Yeah.
I just have a pile of rusty crap on my floor, and
Yeah.
I feel a lot better about it hanging out with you guys.
that was the comment I was laughing about, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I've got about
Man
4
treasure.
piles of rusty things all on a wire rack. That's about all I've got with a few long bars. Everything else I typically will either go find or buy. I mean, most of the scrap I've got is literally that's it. It's leftovers from everything I've done.
I've been using. We've got a couple shelves there at the space, 2 foot by 4 foot shelves, and I'm using those for anything that's under 4 feet long, and just laying them lengthwise on the shelf, and to make a nice little part scrap area where we can pull materials off. They used to have a little vertical storage solution that was just unwieldy. People were sticking, 10-foot long things in there, all thread and stuff like that was not supposed to be in this thing, and it was knocking it over and getting in my way. I got ticked and cleaned it all out the other day and got rid of all the junk and reworked it. Oh, somebody just fell off. Looks like we lost Everett. No,
I'm here.
Right.
Hi, Everett.
Oh, there's Ryan. Yeah, I'm here.
But I think we lost Chirpy.
Yep, we did.
Chirpy.
He will be back.
Yep. Sorry, I can't remember all the faces on the Hollywood Square.
Lucky I am, of course. I have small machines, so I can make only small parts. So I use small pieces of scrap. So that's good. No.
Yeah. So we were talking about preparation. We said somebody used the needle gun. What else kind of stuff do y'all do? How, this piece is super rusty. What do you do with it?
I do it on the belt sander.
Belt sander?
Yeah.
Any of y'all do stuff like
sanders are a
Evapor
good
Rust
one.
or anything?
No.
I will use Evaporust on some of the precision tools I will clean up. Typically, if I'm going to weld it together, angle grinder comes out with a very coarse wheel. After that, it'd be a flap wheel. After that, it's the Dynafile. If I'm really trying to get that one area just right, I have not used Evaporust for anything super bad yet. I've seen like Blacksmith Tools, all the other large names do that for some of the really heavy stuff, but I've never used it myself.
I've tried it. I like it for surface rust, but when you start getting into like scale on the metal, it doesn't. It just doesn't cut through it.
I never used.
I think I'll just use like I'll soak stuff in vinegar overnight if it's like a hand tool that I'm kind of fixing up. I mean, once again, you got to be careful with that because it's a mild acid. So if you leave it in for a couple days, it might shrink your sizes or wreck your threads or something. But
I had a piece of material that we had in there that's had powder coat on it, and we were trying to get the powder coat off, and we were using flap wheels and wire wheels, and that stuff just was it was getting through it, but it was quickly loading up the flap wheel. Went over and grabbed a I don't know what they are. They're used for paint stripping, and one of those green wheels that you can put on a grinder.
Yeah, it's like a Scotch Brite wheel.
Red wheel.
Yeah.
And that stuff took that powder coat off like nobody's business. Yeah. See, wire brush first, then Evapor Rust. Dennis is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
once you get it down to just kind of surface rust, the Evapor Rust does well. But like I said, like I'm getting stuff that's got like pits with scale in it, and even like the needle scaler, it's hard to get that stuff out.
Yeah. One thing to let everybody know about, in case you don't know, is Evapor Rust describes the technique of using paper towels, soaking the paper towels in it, and putting it on, and then wrapping it in cellophane. Do not do that. You'll end up with a horrible splotchy pattern on your whatever you're trying to use. It will look like crap.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I actually talked with the Evapor Rust people about it, and the guy said he wishes they would take that off the back of the can because he's had more complaints about that thing, about people doing that. He says if you can do it, it's better just to soak it, and if you can totally submerge your item in the stuff. Using the paper towel method, what happens is the Evapor Rust evaporates at different rates because you can never get it really sealed very well with a cellophane, and it will splotch it up and stick to it and that kind of stuff.
Can you combine Evapor Rust with electrolytics?
It's an enzyme based.
If you see what I mean.
No, not really. It's an enzyme based process. You can stick it in a ultrasonic cleaner though, and it really works really well in an ultrasonic cleaner.
I think you might have to be careful with your electrolysis because you might be turning chemicals into other things, right?
Yeah.
So like electrolysis, I think if you do stainless, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it'll create some kind of gas.
All metals will create the gas. It's
of course it's the electrolysis of water. So you make oxygen and hydrogen. That's how I would say in English.
Hydrogen, yeah.
Hydrogen is of course explosive. So be careful with it. But I think if you put a 6 volt or a 12 volt source on it for 24 hours, it will not explode your house.
I think I was speaking to like stainless will create like SO2 or something like that. That's actually bad for you. Like the hydrogen's not ideal, and oxygen, but
yeah, there's something I remember reading something about that
it's
too.
chromium hexafluoride, I believe, or chromium. It's chromium 6 is what it is. It's an oxide. It's toxic, but it seeps out of the stainless because of the chromium and nickel in the stainless.
Dennis is saying hydrogen when you do the electrolysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so somebody also mentioned that evaporust will blacken your material. You're actually after you get through doing the evaporust process, you're supposed to rinse it off with warm water and immediately treat it with some oil or something so it doesn't flash rust, and then you can go back over it with some steel wool or maybe some Scotch-Brite or something like that and bring it back a little bit. But it can blacken if you leave it in there too long, because what it's doing is drawing that carbon out as well. If you put black oxide bolts and stuff into it, they will come out shiny, because black oxide is a form of rust, and it will turn your black fasteners shiny or dull gray at least.
Sometimes you kind of want that. Like I've actually taken some of my parts and cleaned the rust off with vinegar, and then actually I boiled them in I don't know, 10-to-1 mixture, and it's actually turned my parts a gray that I was actually looking for. A little bit blotchy, but you can actually intentionally use that to your advantage sometimes with vinegar.
I've used phosphoric acid. It's sold as crud cutter. It'll eat the rust right off and the black oxides and stuff.
Yeah,
but you gotta watch.
I think muriatic acid will work too, but it's super toxic. Like if you breathe it in, so like it'll just kill your lungs. So you gotta be careful there.
The phosphoric acid attacks oxygen, so it breaks down the metal oxide bond or the rust bond, and you just leave it with a bare metal.
Somebody
a lot of
sorry, Trophy.
Oh, a lot of the metal prep sprays and stuff are phosphoric acid. It goes in, it sets on there, and it etches the metal just slightly. It just breaks into the surface of it, and then it stops.
Yeah, that's
kind of like a parkerizing.
Kind of.
Yeah. Somebody had mentioned doing hardness testing with some files and stuff in here also.
Yeah, the Subosun Rockwell testing files are awesome. Those guys?
Yes.
Yep. Those.
I have a set of those, and it was like, at the time it was cheaper than this, but yeah, it was like the best $100 I ever spent as far as figuring stuff out. They're worth it. Totally.
How do you use them? Like, what's the story there?
Well, what they are is there's a series of files, and each file is hardened to a particular Rockwell.
Hold on, let me bring you up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is low tech, but yeah, each file is a different Rockwell hardness. And so when you work it against a piece of material, if it skates, it's harder. If it digs in, it's softer, right? So it goes, I think it was 40 to 65 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know, I found it really handy, just like I say, if I want to try working on something in the shop, if I get a piece of scrap and I go, okay, can I use this? Zing, nope. Or, different parts of it, like on an axle shaft, like a pickup truck axle shaft. I got a bunch from a recall that Chrysler did a few years ago on their half tons. They weren't heat treating them properly, and we're finding that the flanges are busting off and they're losing tires. And so we were replacing them under a recall, and I got a bunch out of the scrap bin there. The ends where the splines and then the bearing wear surface are, they're definitely hardened and ground and fixed and whatever. But if you go about 4 inches in from either end and cut her off, it's actually, you can cut it with carbide and you can use it for various different things and in the state it's in. I just don't want to, you don't want to try tapping or anything like that, but if you're going to be using it just for a part, it's actually quite usable.
Another thing you could do is take the pieces and I cut mine in half with a angle grinder, and then stuck them in a fire and got them bright orange hot, or bright red hot, and then just let it go out with a fire to anneal it, and then you can do whatever with it.
Oh yeah, you can anneal it.
Couple things on those files. Funny story. I picked the setup off of Amazon a while back, and when I got the cheapest one I could find, and I noticed that the label on it was in Japanese, the instructions. And I said, that's no big deal. I found the English version and I printed it out and I made a sticker to go over top of it. And when I got it in, I printed that sticker out. I was sticking it on there. I noticed that it was raised a little bit where I was putting my sticker. And I said, oh, there's already a sticker there. And I peeled it back. And it was the English instructions underneath it. So apparently they were selling one of these versions with Japanese instructions cheaper than I could get the English version for. Okay, whatever. I pulled it off and been using them ever since.
Yeah. My set's totally in Japanese. I don't care. I don't know kanji, but I don't need to.
Yeah, just start with a 65 and work your way down. That's what they say.
Yep.
But since it was
I don't have. I start cutting, and if my cutting tool dies, it means the part is too hard.
It's my case. Oh, sorry. Usually it's my case that if the cutting tool dies, you got to center it up a bit more.
I think sometimes if you're really getting more precision, you can use like a comparator. I don't know if this is exactly what we're looking for, but you can stick a bearing in between a known metal and your metal, and you can give it a wrap, and then you can use like a magnifying glass with a little measuring on it, and see the difference between the known and the unknown.
Yeah, that's cool. Never thought of that.
I'm using just the center punch. Everyone has a center punch. Put a punch in it, and if your punch is still sharp after, it means the material is soft.
It's so
a
simple.
Stupid system, but it works, and it costs you nothing.
So
of course, if the part is hard, you lose a little bit the point of your center punch, but regrinding it is really not a big deal, I think.
Yeah.
Another test is a ball bearing. Drop a ball bearing on it. Harder steels will bounce higher.
So
they used to use that for one hardness tester.
It's not always easy when there's a big layer of rust or paint or whatever on it. If you have a weird shape, like for example, you have the S axis for brakes for a truck. If you see the shape of it, it's a bit complicated to start bouncing things on it. But indeed, it's a system that works. You know?
Oh, S-cam shafts are awesome.
Yeah.
Just cut the hard ends off the outside. Lots of good material in the middle.
Good stuff.
They're awesome.
So those files, one thing I like about them is I don't even have to try to skate them. I can put the file on the material, and just if I can wiggle the table with that piece of material underneath it, I know that the file is harder than the material, and I keep doing that.
It bites.
It bites. I don't even have to skate or try. I know that as soon as I put it on there and start to move it, I don't even scratch the material. I know that it's good and hard enough. Technique I show, and then of course I've got the hardness tester, and I've showed the other people the space. Here, try this file, and we'll try it until we get down between the 50 and 55 mark. I said, now we can throw it over here in the hardness tester. I can tell you exactly what that little point is, and we'll test a couple spots, and it'll come up like 52 or 53 Rockwell on this piece that I use.
How many times have you come unglued on somebody because they found this awesome little set of needle files with a nice little bend in the end to get into hard to reach areas to work on a project?
I haven't, because those get locked up, and I go to my class every single time what these are. They know better than that.
So
Most of them know better than that.
I had one piece of scrap that was nice and soft on the edges, and it was cutting beautifully. And then I went to the middle of it, and it was one of these things where it's like, oh, this is just about the shape I need. I just need to clean the thing up. And I got to the middle, and there was a little raised part, and I hit that, and the tool immediately just screamed at me and died. I'm like,
oh no,
what was that? Like, try another tool, same thing. And then I get out the files. I managed to mill down a little bit with the carbide tool, but it was not happy. And I get out the files, and it was like off the 65 file wouldn't even touch it. And I'm like, what the hell is this thing? So I throw it in the heat treat oven and anneal it and pull it out. And what it was a piece of wrought iron with some sort of hard steel in the middle. It must have been some sort of die or something, but it was just this, like, you could see the little fusion line where it was forged welded together.
Weird.
So things you find in the woods get really interesting sometimes.
So, Adam, we've not heard much from you.
Mhm.
You got anything to add?
Yeah, as far as scrap stuff I use, I mostly get 90-degree gearboxes. If there's, thankfully, the machine shop around here, they get old lathes and stuff quite a bit that are trashed. I pull the lead screws out of them, pull the gears out of the headstock if nothing's usable, for someone else.
That's sad.
Yeah. Pretty big machines.
My heart breaks
pretty
when you
often.
say that.
Yeah.
We've had at the space. We've had the people. Our landlord was doing durable medical equipment, and we've had quite a few scrap stuff come through from there. Lead screws and linear actuators and motors for the power wheelchairs and stuff like that. That's always good stuff to get into.
Yeah.
Make all kinds of nice, cool stuff out of that.
Treadmills. Treadmills are great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I got a
treadmills.
Yeah, that's what my CNC spindle motor is a 2 1/4 horsepower treadmill. No, 1.5 or 1 3/4 horsepower treadmill motor.
Yeah, I got 2 3/4 horse for the vertical milling head on my mill.
Some of those
Whenever
don't
I get
do
that
good
built.
backwards though. You got to make sure that the brushes are set up correctly in them.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is bidirectional.
Okay.
So
Oh,
you was asking about how we store the steels and stuff. I have a little casting shed, and a lot of the wheel rims and stuff is outside of that. But inside the shop, usually I find a lot of little pieces like about this long and stuff like that. I have a little roll-around cart that I built ages ago that has PVC pipe fittings, 6-inch PVC pipe, horizontal in it, so that it will. I just have little spaces I can throw in threaded rod or whatever into and roll it around where I need it. It usually lives under the workbench. Then the longer stuff usually lives in the casting shed around the forge. Because if you don't have the piece you need, you can definitely turn it into it.
whose cell phone was that?
Sorry, I got a text message.
Okay, I love that one. Listen for your stuff.
I thought it was pretty apropos,
Yeah. Hey, Adam,
Right.
there was somebody here that asked a question about you ever cut open old welding tanks.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
As far as storing long stuff in the shop, my 12-foot lathe is older, so it has the feet. It's not square based like a lot of modern lathes. So anything that's 10 foot or around that, I just keep lengthwise under the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with my old lathe too. I usually store all my wood under those lathes, so it ends up being a really good place to keep all that.
Oh my gosh. Somebody here is. I'm going to flash this up just because of the horror.
Whoa.
That's terrible.
That's absolutely terrible.
What
Oh
the
my
heck?
God.
Wow.
That thing couldn't be square ever again.
No, how sad for that machine. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
This is the end of it. Yeah.
I was going to say, some of these techniques you can't exactly use for machinery building, electrolysis or some of that other stuff you all talking about to get the rust off. You can't do because it's going to damage the material. It's going to pit it or something. So that's why I like doing the evapor rust.
Yeah.
Another technique I found for doing. Sorry, I'm going to go back to vapor rust because I've used it quite a bit. A lot of people complain that you've got to dunk the whole thing. No, you don't have to dunk the whole thing. You just need to dunk the surface that you're trying to remove the rust from. I dunked a lathe in it. I inverted the lathe. Yep, I dunked the lathe in it.
All right, what sort of giant swimming pool of evapor rust do you have at your access that we need access to?
Well, I'm going to explain this.
Seriously.
I'm going to explain this process. I took a bunch of 2x4s and made a little frame. And I went to Home Depot and got some 6 mil plastic, and I doubled it up, and I put in there and made a little bitty pool about that tall, and stapled it around. inverted the lathe, and set it so that it was suspended with the ways that far down into the, about an eighth of an inch off the bottom of the plastic, and then I filled it with 5 gallons of evaporust. And I just had the evaporust up, and then I still didn't have enough, so I started taking blocks and stuff and dropping in there to raise the water level.
I put bricks in mine.
Yeah, to raise the level up so that it get covered up above the bottom of the ways.
How much did you have evaporate on you?
Not a lot. I mean, I only left it in there for about a day and a half. In fact, I still had most of it when I recycled it and pumped it up back into the.
Interesting, because I've always been concerned about it all evaporating away. So I usually keep the container I'm using as covered as possible, but I guess
I took that 5 mil plastic and I rolled back around it and kind of tucked it in there. But it did pretty good for that couple days that I had it suspended. I'll show some pictures at some point to some people. I've got that processed photograph. This is after I found out about the paper towel issue. I contacted them and complained. They actually sent me a whole new 5 gallon bucket of that evaporust over that issue. I thought that was pretty nice.
And paper towels.
No paper towels. I even use the high grade paper towels. I use the blue shop towels. That's what really ticked me off. So, well, okay. So we got about 4 minutes left. I do want to go over a couple housekeeping things. I don't remember if I said it at the beginning, but the 17th of the month is Easter. We will not be doing a discussion that particular day. You all have a nice Easter. The 24th, which is the following Sunday, I unfortunately have a prior engagement, and I will not be able to do that episode as well. So we're going to have 2 weeks off. That's all well and good. Enjoy your spring break. Have fun. Go make something cool out in the shop, hopefully.
I already did.
Say again.
I already did that. Make something cool.
Yep. We'll pick up the discussion back at the 1st of May, and I expect to see some of that cool stuff there, Michelle.
I have some here.
You have some?
I showed you. Yeah.
Yep, I saw that.
I like it.
I mean, no one.
But that's all I have up here, of course.
Yeah, I want to see something that you make over the 2 weeks that we're away.
Okay.
Okay. I do want to thank our new guys for showing up. That was Adam. You said you'd been on before, but I didn't remember. But I put you down as a new guy. Jeremy, you've not been on, so thank you for showing up. And,
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yep. And Ryan, thank you for showing up.
I
also want to do a shout out to DJ for putting together this panel. I do apologize. Me and DJ, or actually me, I got my wires crossed. And you're all supposed to have been on last week, but that was number 52, and I wanted to do that special.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, 52 episodes for 1 year worth of episodes, and kind of flubbed that up. I do apologize. Fortunately, just about every one of you were able to come back today instead of last week. I do appreciate you all's patience in that.
This actually works out better for me anyway, so all good.
Yeah. Hopefully everything is working okay there at the house, and you getting by all right with that kind of stuff. That's all I got. Anybody else want to say anything before we sign off? We got about 2 more minutes left.
Have fun in the shop. That's all.
Have fun in the shop.
Anybody got any challenges for me to make in the shop for next time?
Oh, anybody want to put a challenge out?
No promises. No promises, but I am always looking for a new challenge.
I'm scared to give out challenges because then I have to be able to accept challenges in return. And right now I'm kind of caught up in, I got a list that long of stuff that people have asked me to do. So I have to get caught up on my
this long, and you can't see the lower hand because it's that long.
Yeah.
It just keeps going and going and go. But what do you guys got?
I hadn't a clue, man.
I for
Arbor
the
Puller
moment
for the KO.
have nothing.
DJ said Arbor Puller for the KO.
I don't have projects in advance. I have some little ideas, and that's all.
All right, DJ, he's accepted your challenge. We'll see how it goes.
I think.
Alright.
Well, I think my next one that I'm doing is I've got some old. I think they're hand forged sled runners that I found, and I'm going to make some hand scrapers out of those.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Jeremy,
folks.
I think you're gonna make a tool holder like this one
All right, folks. That's
maybe.
that's the
for
hour.
your shaper. I don't have a tool in it for the moment. Ask Everett; he can tell you also about it.
Those are cool. I got one of those. He made me when he gave it to me. That's awesome.
That's cool.
So
Nice.
thanks again, Michelle.
It works great. Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's our
Okay.
hour. We're gonna sign off, and we're gonna
Next
chit-chat a
time.
little bit.
Thanks a
We'll
lot.
see
It was
you-
fun.
We'll see you in May.
Thank you, everybody.